Hey everyone, I'm Brad and this is Watch Rate Heart, and it's Friday, which means it's time for the watch list. It's where I discuss the movies I've watched and my feelings about them. And this week we'll be watching 4 films, 2 of which from 1995, that have one specific distinction. They are affectionately known as cult classics. And what are cult classics? A cult classic is something that is popular amongst a certain group of people or a section of society. But another thing that a lot of cult classics have in common is that many of them were not popular or successful when they were released in theaters, but later gained popularity as time moved forward. Some examples of that would be Office Space or The Big Lebowski. But enough of that, we have 4 movies to discuss, so let's get down to reviewing some movies. And the first movie to review is Labyrinth, starring Jennifer Connelly and David Bowie, directed by Jim Henson. It has a Letterboxd score of 3.7 out of 5 and a Rotten Tomatoes score of 77% fresh. And I gotta say, there are some seriously impressive things about Labyrinth. First off is the puppetry and character design of all the creatures in the film. They are very impressive. A lot of them are very creative, very big, they actually feel like people in this movie. But they're really not, because they're all puppets or animatronic. And they look really good. And I love Ludo in this movie. Ludo is so cute and so big and impressive. Like, everything about the puppetry and the character design is really good in this movie. The other really good thing about this movie is David Bowie, both musically and in the film. He is the highlight of the film. He's in the movie sparingly. He is the villain of the film. He is Jareth the Goblin King. And he just kind of chews scenery, and it's really good. I think he is easily the showiest and the most fun performance of this film. And the music, oh my god, the music is so good in this film. He doesn't do all the songs, I believe, but the ones that he's involved in is just very catchy. I still have Dance Magic in my head from watching this yesterday. Like, they're really good songs in this movie. But I have to say that this film is a very basic children's movie. Like, a very basic. Literally, it's something happens to the protagonist. She has to go somewhere to stop it. And then the rest is just leaning towards that. And then she meets characters along the way. And the story is just not all that engaging. I guess for an adult. For a kid, it could be more. But for an adult like me, I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens next. And I'm surprised to see that Jennifer Connelly is just bland in this film. And her character just feels like a very annoying drama nerd. And we all know drama nerds. They're pretty annoying, right? I'm joking a little bit. But yeah, like, I did not like her character at all. So anything involving the story and the main character, I don't think really works very well in this film. Overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars out of 5. If I'm being honest, the movie itself did not interest me. It just really didn't capture me all that much. When it got into the song and dance and the puppetry is when I was like, okay, now I'm getting interested. This is really good. But anything involving the main character did zip for me. I didn't like Jennifer Connelly's performance. I didn't like her character either, so I think that's a lot of the reason why I didn't like her performance. And the story is just not all that captivating. And I know some of you are going to complain, well, but Brad, this is a children's movie. It's not supposed to be very deep. Well, children deserve good movies too. And the movie I reviewed just earlier this year, The Last Unicorn, is also a children's movie that is actually very engaging, that I think both adults and children could like. And I don't think Labyrinth does what The Last Unicorn did. So overall, 2.5 stars out of 5 for me for Labyrinth. And with every review I do, I also look at the Letterboxd community to see what they think. And I gotta say, there was one weird thing that I saw constantly when it came to the reviews of Labyrinth. They're very horny. And my God, you guys, you guys need Jesus. Well, I'm kidding mostly, but going through all the reviews, 8 out of 10 that I saw all talked about David Bowie's bulge, or his pants, which is probably alliterating to his bulge. I have like 4 on screen right now for you, just talking about that specifically. And I'm like, what? But like, what the hell? Why is everyone commenting on this? It's like for a few seconds and everyone's like, oh my god, ugh, he has a penis. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, really? But oh well. Let's get into 2 other reviews here. I have James here. James gives it 3 stars out of 5 with a heart, and he says, no clue what the fuck happened, but David Bowie, which Yeah, that's essentially my thought on that too. And finally, the last review we have is from Professor Dorkman. Dorkman gives it 3 stars out of 5 with a heart, and he says, Terry Jones' writing doesn't seem to properly fit within the imagination of Jim Henson. The script does meander. It is only saved by the music of Bowie and the Jim Henson Workshop, which I 100% agree with Dorkman on this one. The presence of the Goblin King doesn't even come as a threat to Sarah. He isn't an antagonist or an anti-hero. The Goblin King just appears on screen, says his dialogue, and just fades away. If it wasn't for the casting music of Bowie and the Creature Workshop's magic, this film wouldn't be talked of today. 100%, 1000% agree, Professor Dorkman here. If Bowie wasn't a part of this, I think, honestly, if it wasn't for Bowie, this would have been a worse film, and I probably wouldn't have given it the score I gave it. But Bowie's music and himself and the puppetry, I think, really makes this film work.
You've got to climb Mount Everest to reach the Valley of the Dolls. It's a brutal climb to reach that peak.
Next up, we have the cult film Valley of the Dolls, starring Barbara Parkins, Patty Duke, and Sharon Tate, directed by Mark Robson. It has a Letterboxd score of 3.4 out of 5, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 32% rotten, and it was nominated for an Oscar for Best Music for John Williams' score. And it's also on the Criterion Collection. This film is kind of like a soppy, melancholic fame changes drama, but I actually kind of liked it. I find it weird that Tate gets all the love when it comes to this film, when I think it's really Patty Duke has the best performance. It's over the top, yes, it's very over the top, but I actually thought her story and how she did her character was a lot better than I would say the other actresses in the film. And the set design, the costumes, the cinematography is colorful and vibrant in this film. It looks really good. John Williams' score, really good. I really liked his score in this. That said, this movie is way too damn long. This goes on for a little over 2 hours. I honestly would have probably cut it like 1 hour, 30 minutes tops. And with that, I would say that probably Sharon Tate's character's plot line could have been cut completely. I kind of forgot throughout the entire film that she was connected to Parkinson's character and Duke's character. Like I think that character could have been completely cut entirely. And I get a lot of people like Sharon Tate's character for some reason, but I don't get it. But it's not bad, but it's just kind of throwaway. I don't think it's necessary. I get Parkinson's character is supposed to be someone who is elegant, demure, someone who is, I guess, a little bit quiet, understated, but she's also so boring. Honestly, again, couldn't care less about her character after a certain point in the movie. I did enjoy the movie overall, so I'm giving it 3 stars out of 5. I think this was a fine movie. I think the look of the film is really good. I think the music is very good, and I really like Patty Duke and her performance. That said, I think the film is way too long. It could have been cut drastically, and I think if Patty Duke's character is not involved at all, it does get kind of boring. So 3 stars out of 5 for me for Valley of the Dolls. Now, we're going to get into the Letterboxd reviews here, and this is very mixed. I'm actually very surprised. I'm going to start with a 1.5 star review from Jerry. Jerry has this as part of his Trash of Criterion Film Club, which, well, you know where this is going. And Jerry says, the cinematic equivalent of a soggy Dove bar. A bloated, soapy bromide that ultimately fails to say anything of real substance, falling right on its waspy face. Kitschy charm, you say? Okay, fine. Although you would think that with all the schmaltzy melodrama and tawdry overacting, they would at least be relatively entertaining, but by the end, I felt like I was the one dozing off from barbiturates. Well, that's harsh. About as insipid as cheap instant coffee. Wow. as insipid as cheap instant coffee, and to make matters worse, it's decaf. Wow. You'll likely be the one who's running for the shelter of Mother's Little Helper by the time these 2 grueling hours are up. Wow. That's hard. Oh, wow. Damn. I thought that could be harsh at times. We have a positive one, and this is from Ashley. Ashley gives it 3.5 stars and a heart, and Ashley says, for a camp classic, this is melancholic AF. Yes, it is. It's also beautiful and strange and far too long, but damn, I loved every single one of these women. Sharon is so fucking beautiful and genuinely, earnestly sweet and so damaged. Annie is stunning, has the best wardrobe, and I cheered out loud that she finally dumped that loser lion. Spoiler alert. Nearly my queen, my wild, mean, dramatic angel, my Neely O'Hara! She's giving this everything she's got, and I fucking love her for it. The pacing is kind of bad. Yes, I agree. The story is sad and surrealistic in its ability to be only barely tethered to reality. But the dolls are dolling, the looks are looking, and I just love women, and I was rooting for these ladies for the full 2 hours. And this last review is from Grace. Grace gives this 3.5 stars out of 5 with a heart, and Grace says, the most classic case of a book being better. But people can spare 2 hours more than they can spare the time it takes to read a multi-perspective 500-page novel. I kind of understand both perspectives in this. I ended up enjoying the film for what it is. Is it a great movie? No, but it's good with, I think, a really good performance by Patty Duke. And now our first cult classic film from 1995, which is Noah Baumbach's Kicking and Screaming, starring Josh Hamilton, Olivia d'Abo, and Parker Posey. It has a Letterboxd score of 3.4 out of 5 and a Rotten Tomatoes score of 56% rotten. It is also on the Criterion Collection, and I have to be honest, I didn't very much like this film at all. I think all the characters are shades of either obnoxious and annoying. I didn't like anybody in this film. I thought no one was likable. And even though it's short, it still felt like it lingered on for a little too long. Let me just be honest here. I really don't have much to say other than I didn't find it funny and I didn't like any of the characters. I'll be kind and say that maybe if I lived that life and have been there around that time, I could have engaged with it more, but I honestly just didn't get it. And I like some of Noah Baumbach's films. The Squid and the Whale is a great movie, but this movie really didn't do anything for me. So Kicking and Screaming gets 2 stars out of 5 for me. Didn't like any of the characters. I thought even though it was short, it lingered on in certain scenes for too long, and I just didn't like anybody in this film. There are some scenes that are fine, I guess, but overall, I just didn't like the movie at all. 2 stars out of 5 for me for Kicking and Screaming. What's very interesting is when I went to Letterboxd to check out the reviews for this film, I don't think I'm the only one who felt this way. For example, Robert gives it 1 star out of 5, and he just says, this is a big note for me, didn't get it, just saw it at the wrong time of my life, I suppose, and that's exactly how I feel. Let's go into this next one here. We have Sophia. Sophia gives it 2 stars out of 5. She says, this is right up my alley, I should have liked it more, yet it was boring. I am the same exact way. This is usually something I actually enjoy watching. Let's get into another one that's a little more positive. Let's have a 3-star review from Robert Dixon. Robert says, possibly needs a rewatch, but it felt a little too derivative of the Linklater films of the time for me. Still a watchable film, but nothing special particularly. Interesting to see Olivia d'Abo in this one too. I just finished watching The Wonder Years, so it was a shock to see those guys actually doing anything with their acting careers afterwards. In regards to the Linklater films, the thing that I think Linklater did really well in films like Slacker and in Dazed and Confused specifically is that even though I didn't have any cultural touch point with any of those characters, there was still something universal about them that I can connect with. Whereas in this film, this was very specific to a very specific type of person, so I think that might be my hang-up. Now let's get into our final review. This one's from Karsten. Karsten gives it 4 stars out of 5 and a heart, and Karsten says, it's practically a crime that Baumbach was allowed to keep making movies after making something about pretentious 20-year-old men who happen to be pretty redeemable. But what does that say about him as a writer? As a senior film major with an unpredictable future who just made a video using philosophy to talk about SpongeBob, I really did enjoy the hell out of this. And I guess this is for Karsten because honestly, it really wasn't for me.
You want to walk down to Spago, get something to eat?
Where is it?
Just down from Versace.
Versace.
Ah, right. Versace.
Our final film from 1995 is the infamous Showgirls, starring Elizabeth Berkley, Kyle MacLachlan, and Gina Gershon, directed by Paul Verhoeven. It has a Letterboxd score of 3.4 out of 5 and a Rotten Tomatoes score of 24% rotten. And as you can tell, the critics blew this movie apart when it came out in 1995. I have to say, I'm incredibly surprised how much I liked Showgirls. What I will say right off the rip is people who did not like this movie, I completely understand why. Because the first 30 minutes of the film are a train wreck of misplaced drama, cringy dialogue, and poor creative decision. There's so many things that went wrong in the first 30 minutes that I was watching it going, oh yeah, I can see why everyone hated it. It's like basically Nomi, the character played by Elizabeth Berkley, is all over the place. She's happy one minute, childlike the next, and then completely angry and violent in another minute. It's completely crazy how she flips on a dime on nearly every scene. Like, literally, it could take seconds, and she is just going all over the place. But the first 30 minutes start to fit very well when the film starts moving forward. The film justifies the craziness of the 30 minutes and how it's written and how it's being portrayed as the film goes on. And I was actually very surprised by that. When the film goes into her being a chorus line dancer is where the film, I think, really starts to shine and does an incredibly good job of telling its story. The film has an incredible vibe and energy that is infectious when it clicks, and honestly, it often does after a certain point in the movie, which is the scenes where it starts the chorus line section. It is funny in certain spots, it's outrageous in a lot of spots, but really there's this energy to the film that makes everything go by quick. I think it has a lot to do with the dance sequences and just how over-the-top everything tends to be, but still believable in that way. And that's the weird thing about Showgirls. Yes, it is over-the-top, but it's still believable in a very strange way. I think it's mainly because it's set in Vegas around that time, and I think even to this day, is pretty over the top, so it makes sense why everyone was acting the way they were. Performances, Gina Gershon steals every scene she's in. She is excellent in this film. I think Berkeley, though shaky in the beginning, actually turns out very well, and I think Kyle MacLachlan plays a really good scumbag. On top of that, set design, costumes, shot selection is actually very well done in this film. The way the film looks from beginning to end is actually very attractively done. Once it gets to the chorus line, once it gets to the show, then the film hits another stage and it just blows everything apart. Now, I do have problems with this film, and the first thing is, for a film that marketed itself as a sexy drama, this movie is not sexy in the slightest. This actually is a pretty scummy film at certain points. It's got a lot of frank talk about sex. Some of it's set in a strip club, the rest of it is set in a chorus line, of course, in Vegas. Maybe it's just me, but I didn't find any of it sexy. I didn't find any of it titillating. I was just watching this going, yep, this kind of sucks. But I think that's what the movie was kind of going for. Another thing is, I kind of think I found my limit of how long I can see naked women's breasts for in a film, and I think it's about an hour and 20 minutes, apparently. Because at some point I was watching this film going, wow, I'm getting really tired of seeing really hot women naked. This is weird. I never thought this day would come, but here it is. So, yeah, I think the film could have easily had more scenes with less nudity. There is a lot of nudity in this film, so if you are bothered by that, yeah, you're going to skip this movie, amongst other things. Again, I'll say this in the beginning. I get why people hate this film. It is a mess in some crucial spots, but the messiness of the film turns into something that maintains a constant energy. It's incredibly infectious, and I really enjoyed Showgirls more than I ever thought I would. I'm giving this 4 stars out of 5. The performances are great. I think the energy that the film gives off as the film goes on is really infectious, and the look of the film as well, I think, is really well done. I do understand why people don't like this film. I do understand why people shout out this film when it came out, but I am actually very happy that it gained its cult following as time went on. I was going to say this was a fun movie. It is and it isn't. That's kind of the weird thing about this film. There are some fun spots in the film, but really within the fun campiness of it is a pretty disturbing story. But otherwise, it's a really good movie. I really enjoyed it, surprisingly so. If you would have told me in 1995 I would watch this and love it, I would have thought you had been nuts. But here we are. I really like Showgirls. Really good movie. So the Letterboxd community, there are a lot of people who like this film, and there's a lot of people who don't. I think I've got a good mix here. So let's start with Robert, who gives us 1.5 stars out of 5. Robert says, on the one hand, it's easy to see the allure of Elizabeth Berkley. Tall, gorgeous, blonde. She can put together a coherent reason for why she was cast, until you actually watch her perform. This is among the worst acting of the 90s. It's hard to fathom that a real director was just like, fuck it, she's fine. Not to mention how poorly written her character is. There's a lot of interesting things going on in Showgirls, but the distractingly terrible acting, in quotes, of Berkley is way too much to overcome. Yikes. You know, she does become a little much, but I think that fits with her character. If you watch the film, you'll know why towards the end. But I do understand why people will look at that performance and go, whoa, that's a bad performance. I liked it. I thought it was good. This next review is from Mark. Mark gives it 3 stars and a heart, and Mark says, the number one reason this is a comedy isn't Elizabeth Berkley's constant overacting. See? It's the fact that the most touching scene in the film ends with the line, it must be weird not having someone come on you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Right before she ridiculously thrashes on Kyle MacLachlan, 5 minutes later in a human wave pool. Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, God. That one line. Yeah, that line is crazy. The one line with Robert Davies' character is completely stupid because she hated working at the strip club. And for some reason, the two people who are running the strip club come to see her in the chorus line. And she's so happy to see them. Oh, my God, I missed you so much. Da, da, da. And I'm watching this going, you hated these people. What are you talking about? But again, I will say this. At the end of the film, you'll understand why she is like that. And finally, we have a review from Charlton HTFC. Charlton gives it 3 stars out of 5, and he says, I had hopes going into the film, and to be honest, it was really good. I really liked the premise and the performances. I understood the message of the film in the world of dancing. The only reason why it only gets 3 stars is the constant nudity scenes throughout the film. I believe they should have kept it down a bit. Anyways, I found it a good watch, would recommend it. And I understand this. After a certain point in the film, I was like, okay, this is too much. Really, why is there so much nudity in this film? So yeah, I do agree with Charlton when it comes to the nudity, but on the other hand, in my eyes, was I bothered by it? No, it just had no effect on me, and then after a certain point, I was like, okay, this is a bit too much. Okay, can we tone it down just a little bit? Thank you. And that was basically it on that. It didn't really bother me, but it just kind of got annoying. I guess then maybe that is bothering me? I don't know. But yeah, I can understand where Charlton's going from. And with that, that is it for this episode of Watch Rate Heart. But before I go, let me ask you a question. What is your favorite film that is considered a cult classic? See, this term can be used for so many things to so many people. And since Before Sunset is considered a cult classic to some, I will say that film. But there's others I do like, including The Iron Giant, Wonder Boys, and My Dinner with Andre. Honestly, if you've read what My Dinner with Andre is, you think it's boring, but give it a shot. It is fascinating. You can follow me at Letterboxd and X at Watch Rate Heart. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it and share with your friends. I'm Brad from Watch Rate Heart. Thank you for watching, and remember, we all watch and rate movies, but you give them the heart that makes them live forever.